One of the more exciting teams in Conference USA last year was the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Thanks to a quarterback that exceeded expectations, Tyson Helton and the Hilltoppers were able to have a phenomenal season. Now they return with the top 10 players we'll talk about today, and there's no reason why they can't compete for a Conference USA title. Now, the first guy we're going to talk about is that quarterback we mentioned earlier, Austin Reed, the West Florida transfer, who, when you look at his stats from West Florida, it kind of was surprising that Western Kentucky thought he'd be a good fit when you look at one of his seasons. The other one, not so much. You kind of expected that. But with everybody expecting the drop off to be significant from Bailey Zappi, I think everybody was pleasantly surprised with what Austin Reed could do. Now, you look at his production from last year, over 4,700 yards, 40 touchdowns. You'd probably like to see him reduce those interceptions a little bit, but this is someone who can be an explosive playmaker for this offense. And you look at the wide receivers that he has back this year, there's no reason why this offense should take a step back. This should be an offense that's one of the most explosive in college football, an offense that's going to thrive with Reed running the show. And it's a guy who could potentially make some noise in the 2024 NFL draft. Now, obviously, haven't seen what Bailey Zappi can do quite yet, but it feels like he's due for his shot. He's going to get his chance to showcase his talent, and Austin Reed will be able to do the same. I like what he brings to the table, brings a solid frame to the table as well. And I think that the Western Kentucky is in good hands with him running the show. Now, one of the guys he's going to throw to is Malachi Corley, a breakout season last year for him, 101 catches, over 1,200 yards, and he is going to receive a lot more attention, but they're going to find ways to get him open, and it'll be fun to see how they scheme him open and what do the other guys do to kind of open things up for him. He's going to command a lot of attention. It's going to give other guys one-on-one matchups. But what does this offense do? Because again, this offense is phenomenal. It's really explosive. It's really tough to defend. And when you're throwing as much as you do, it's going to wear guys out. And guys like Corley thrive on that because they're used to that kind of conditioning and they're able to make big plays because they will essentially make the plays when everybody else is tired. And 101 catches clearly means he was the favorite target. You'd like to see maybe those numbers go down, maybe be a little bit more efficient. But when in doubt, Austin Reed has someone that he can throw to. Now, when you flip over to the defense side of the ball, I think the defense deserves a lot of love too. Jaquez Evans comes back, flirted with the transfer portal for a little bit, ultimately decided to come back to play for Western Kentucky one more year. 106 tackles last year, 13 and a half tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. Honestly, an underrated player at the linebacker edge position. He'll be disruptive on the edge. He's been a solid playmaker for the last couple of years for the Hilltoppers. And this defense obviously has a lot of pressure because of the offense being able to score so many points. It's going to put a lot of focus on what can the defense do to help this offense out. But I think you're looking at a defense with good talent. They lose some key pieces, but Evans is one of those players and everybody knows who he is. It's just a matter of how do teams scheme against him, and if they do and they're able to block him, what do his teammates do to help out? Now, on back on the offensive side of the ball, his offense is going to be good because even though they've taken a lot of hits on the offensive line, they've done a great job of stockpiling talent. And Quantavious Leslie is that next player who deserves a lot of love. And like I said, they lost a lot of talent to the transfer portal over the last couple of years, and it seems like they've reloaded just fine every single year. And Leslie is another example of that 6'3", 310-pound guard. He is just one of the guards that we'll talk about today, an experienced player who knows what he's doing. And even though they lost, like I said, lost some talent, they're going to get these other guys up to speed because they have veterans like Leslie back. And going back to defense, it's again, we talk about the defense and what they need to do. Upton Stout is an underrated player, in my opinion, mostly because he's 5'9", 180 pounds, a little bit on the smaller side for a cornerback and for a defensive back, but he was really good. The stats maybe don't show you that he is a playmaker, but he can make plays on the football. He knows how to intercept the ball. He knows how to give the ball back to his offense, and that's going to be a big thing. Turnover margin is going to be probably one of the biggest stats for Western Kentucky because we know they're going to score. We know they're going to throw the ball, but can they limit their mistakes on offense? We talked about that with Austin Reed. And can the defense and Stout do more to help this offense out as well? And like I said, the offense is going to score points. It's just a matter of how does the defense help them out? And we talked about those receivers before and who's going to step up to help Corley. One of those guys could be Michael Mathison, 5'10", 180 pounds, a little bit on the smaller side, just like we talked about with Corley, and he has the potential to have a breakout year, 615 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, when you look at 2 years ago, we talked about the same thing with Malachi Corley and Dawood Davis being potential breakout candidates with what they lost. And they did. They were both very, very good. And when you have an offense that's going to distribute the ball as much as Western Kentucky does, you're going to see guys get opportunities to make big plays. MATHISON is one of those players who could have a big year. And there's another guy that we're going to talk about in DALVIN Smith that's also going to have the opportunity to play even bigger. Now, whether they use Smith as a tight end or a wide receiver, we're not really sure. They lost a big time playmaker in Joshua Simon to the transfer portal. So Smith could be that guy at 6'3", 190 pounds. Maybe you want to see him add a little bit more weight to be a tight end, but he's still someone who could be a breakout candidate. 443 yards and 4 touchdowns. He will be a big time target, a big frame target for Austin Reed to find downfield. That's going to be really exciting. And again, this offense is in great hands because they have so much talent to be able to utilize. And another underrated player that we'll talk about, DAVION ERVIN-POINDEXTER at running back. Now, the running back position in this offense is not a feature of this offense. When you look at ERVIN-POINDEXTER and one of my favorite players, Marquise Stepp, still haven't seen him take that next step to being a reliable starter. And I think that there's potential here still. I think that you're looking at a group that is really, really good and really talented. It's just a matter of how do they get to being able to contribute more. Because again, this offense is going to throw the ball a ton. And I don't know if they're going to get a ton of opportunities to see the field and see the ball. So they have to be able to reach the ball. So that's going to be a big thing. And this offense, you're going to have to be able to contribute as a pass catcher because this offense is going to throw the ball a ton. And that's just, there's no other way around it. You're going to have to find a way to catch the football. And like I said, the offense is in good hands. And running back could be an X factor. The offensive line is probably going to be an X factor. And we talked about Quantavious Leslie before. Vincent Murphy is another guard that's coming back who can give them, not as a veteran as Leslie is, but started all 14 games for the Hilltoppers last year. And that's huge. I think that that is a good combo to have up the middle. When you're looking at interior, you're probably not looking at rushing the football, but you need to be efficient. And that starts with the inside of the line. And I think having a guy like Murphy back is huge as well. And there are a few X factors we talked about on the offense with the offensive line. Because you lose talent, it's going to be a question because you have to figure out who can step up and be a larger contributor. Tight end is another one of those. We talked about DALVIN Smith and what he can do to help this team out. If he's not playing tight end, they did add TREVOR BORLAND to the position group, and I think that he could have a bigger year. We haven't seen what he could do quite yet. Only 146 yards to his name, 1 touchdown, 8.1 yards per catch. You'd like to see that number go up, but I think at this offense, he's going to get plenty of opportunities to do that. And that'll be really exciting. Western Kentucky is in good hands. They have a lot of returning talent, especially at wide receiver and quarterback, to make another run. And the Conference USA in general looks a little bit different than it did last year. Maybe it's more winnable. Maybe it's not. I'm not sure. But Western Kentucky is one of those teams that's really talented and could make a run, should make a run at the Conference USA championship. Them and Liberty are probably the two favorites in that conference. So it'll be really interesting to see how do they move on from certain players and how does that defense help the offense out.